Okay, we're back. Today, during class, we looked at the equation D equals RT, which is the equation that says distance, the distance that you can travel is equal to the rate, how fast you are going, times the time, which how long were you traveling that rate. This is really a pretty simple thing. If you're in the car and you're driving at 60 miles per hour, for 4 hours, everybody knows 60 miles per hour for 4 hours. 60 times 4 is 240, so there's a simple little explanation of that. What we did in class today, though, is we actually looked at how do we solve this? How do we use this in algebra? Because they're not usually going to give us something this easy. The rate is 60 miles per hour, the time is 4 hours, and multiply. And it's just not that quite easy usually. What we can do, though, is we can kind of get started on some of your homework tonight. I'm going to look at number 12 off your homework. Every time you do a distance equals rate times time problem, figure out this equation. What do you know coming from this equation? We're going to flip over here, read number 12, and then we're going to start our work. Okay, number 12. An airplane flies from New Orleans, Louisiana to Atlanta, Georgia at an average rate of 320 miles per hour. The airplane then returns at an average rate of 280 miles per hour. The total travel time is 3 hours. Copy and complete the table. Okay. There's a couple ways we can do this. First, let's figure this out. We're not even going to worry about the table so much as we want to just figure out and get these equations. All that table does is give us equations. So what do we have? What do we actually have? Look back at the problem for a second. What do we have? An airplane flies from New Orleans, Louisiana to Atlanta, Georgia at an average rate of 320 miles per hour. The airplane then returns home at an average rate of 280 miles per hour. The total travel time is 3 hours. Copy and complete the table. Here's the deal. First plane, D equals RT, the first trip. The distance of the first trip. Do I know how far it is from New Orleans, Louisiana to Atlanta, Georgia? Nope. I'm going to leave it as D. This is our first plane. Do I know the rate? Do I know how fast he was going? Yeah, from reading the problem, it was 320 miles per hour. Do I know the time it took to get there? Nope. It does tell me something about time. It tells me that the total travel time there and back is 3 hours. But for now, I'm going to call that T. I don't know how long it took me to get here. Okay, if I move over here to the second plane, I also get as D equals RT, and let's figure out what this D equals RT. The distance that the plane traveled, I don't know. He went from Atlanta to New Orleans, which is the same thing as New Orleans to Atlanta, but I don't know how far that is. The rate coming back is 280 miles per hour. I do know that. And the time that it took, well, it took 3 hours total. It took 3 hours from here to here. So this guy's traveled from Louisiana to Atlanta and then back. In total, it took 3 hours. Well, if this guy's T, in total it took 3 hours, what do I have to add to T to get 3 hours? Well, this is sort of an interesting thing. T plus something gives me 3. If I actually had to figure this out, I'd just subtract T from both sides, and I'd figure out that what goes in this blank is 3 minus T. Does that make sense? T plus 3 minus T equals 3. So if that took 3 hours total, I take away however much time that took. The rest of the time is over here. So I'm going to call this 3 minus T. Now what I can do is I have two equations. I have two variables. What do I do? Well, I look at this. Gotta be clever for a second. The distance from Louisiana to Atlanta is the same distance as from Atlanta back to Louisiana. So what I'm going to do, if these distances are the same, this distance is the same as this distance. So if this distance equals this, and that, well, that's the same distance, those are all equal. And all I can do is I can set up a new equation, and I can go like this. This distance, 320t, is equal to the distance I went over here, which is 280 times 3 minus t. This distance equals this distance. I can solve this equation now. 320t equals 280 times 3. Figure that out real quick. 0, 4, 2, 6, 7, 8. 840 minus 280 t. Add 280 to both sides. 280, 0, 0, carry a 1, 600, t equals 840. Divide both sides by 600. T equals, how many times does 600 go into 840? Well, it's going to go in 1 point. Let's see, 600 into 840. It's going to go in 1, 600, 240, add another 0. How many times does 600 go into 2400? 4 times. T equals 1.4 hours. Is this what I wanted? Write and solve an equation to find a flying time from New Orleans to Atlanta. 1.4 hours. 1.4 hours. Done. Here's the work again, if you want to go check that out. And that's how you do distance equals rate times time.